How's everybody doing tonight? Gonna do a little AI. I'll really talk about the overlay document. I probably need to rename my title. I always struggle streaming, but give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Let me get the chat up. Struggling. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Looks like we got 4 watching. If you can give me one in the chat. Fuzan Osmi, glad you can join me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Hopefully, we got a couple people watching on LinkedIn. Oh, I feel you, Ty. I'm struggling too. Man, I'm struggling. I passed another AWS, but I feel you. I appreciate you, Ty. Ty Five Night, appreciate you. Got the one. So we're going to talk about the AI overlay. And if you look at this relationship between NIST AI and the cybersecurity efforts, we're really going over the first column. Control overlays for securing AI systems. Talks about the purpose, provides a series of guidelines for implementing my favorite, 800-53 security controls for different uses of AI. They had 5 in there. We'll definitely talk about those 5. Then we'll talk a little bit about the AWS MlOps and how it handles those 5 users. I appreciate that, Tom. Appreciate it. I need to get on the big dog, go to CISSP. That's what I need to get on. I think that's the one I'm about to switch focus on. I gotta get my energy back up for that one. Once again, it's control overlays for securing AI systems, security controls to manage unique risks for users and developers of AI systems in specific scenarios. Once again, we'll look at the scenarios. the audience, cybersecurity practitioners. I'm one of those. AI users, AI developers, depending on the use case. Once again, we'll peek at the use case. Assumptions, organization and enterprise cybersecurity for policies, procedures, technology controls for security management. Right there for assumptions. I did a video on the AI RMF, cybersecurity framework profiles for AI. I'll probably do that. And managing the dual use foundation model. So those are probably a couple other videos I do. But today, once again, focusing on column 1, control overlays for securing an AI system. Securing AI systems, right there, control overlays. Organizations using AI use case, adapting and using in generative AI, using and fine-tuning predictive AI. This is the big one, using agentic AI, single agent and multi-use agent. That's the big thing, I think, is that the agents are coming. The agents are coming. I did a video on this one, the NIST AI 100 to 2E05, adversarial machine learning, a taxonomy and terminology of attacks and mitigation, right? That was pretty good. That's kind of really talking about the red team, the standard attacks that are available. We're going to touch on a little bit about that. But yeah, I did the video on that one. My favorite one, of course, flowing down into your security controls that's covering AI now. Once again, your NIST 800-53, Red 5. Then over there, security controls for AI developers. My next video probably will be the 800-218. I did secure development, but not for the AI part. Right there, right? Secure software development practices for generative AI and dual use foundation models. And the other one also, NIST AI 800-1, managing and misuse for dual use of foundation models. So I'll probably actually hit that secure software development once again for generative AI. NIST 800-218A. I think I just did the straight 218. Once again, if you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, just drop them in the chat. I'm getting used to this new time. Let's go. Once again, we're going to talk about, in there it talked about the use cases, right? So now we're going to talk about the use cases. This is pretty really short document. I just kind of pulled the big pieces out so we can discuss them. Adaptive and using generative AI assist large language models, the LLM. Let's talk about it. Organizations interested in using AI for creating new content, text or images, videos in there too, as you see in the next one. Purposes of generative AI, creating new content, text, image, audio, and video based on users' prompt by learning from large data sets and identifying patterns in the data set. This use will cover examples of generative AI used for internal business augmentation, creating summaries, analyzing data by internal users. On-premise hosted LLM, there's a few people, shout out to Barenzi. I think he's talking about hosting his own LLM, but supporting infrastructure, the RAG, retrieval augmented generation with proprietary local data sources, mix local and web sources and external web sources only. Third-party hosted LLM with supporting infrastructure with proprietary local data sources mixed in web sources and external web sources. Right, so a lot of times when I work for bigger companies or master companies, they usually have an AI committee to figure out if you could use this. The big deal is, are they using your company's data to train people? And can you control what is generating out? When it's generating text, images, and audio, can you put some guardrails around it to make sure it's something that your company is responsible for? So I think that's the big deal. I think when you talk about AI committees, that's definitely some of the things it looks for as part of that AI committee. And once again, you controlling what's in your company's site. And generative, a lot of people don't want to use generative AI, right? Because the AI is generating new things that, once again, as text, images, audio. It's different as if it's internal. If it's external, right? How do you once again put guardrails and frameworks around what it can generate, and do you need to approve it before it gets pushed out? Once again, those are things that an AI committee discusses and see what's happening. Yeah, facts. Cannabis is in the house. I cannot talk. I don't know if it's a 7 o'clock start. Yeah, definitely trying to put some guardrails around it. Lots of bias, right? And like the government, and hopefully companies are trying to, do what's best, at least for their image. We know the company's really concerned about its shareholders and money, but part of that is the image and what's going out as part of the company. Shout out to Energy. He does this stuff in real life, right? I talk about it with people, talk about it on committees from a GRC perspective, put a little guardrails around it, right? But once again, that's part of the development staff, your AI developers, your AI infrastructure, right? I just checks the governance of that and make sure that's appropriate. We already had the debate of hallucinations, right? Is that the AI developers piece? Is that GRC's piece? Is that a combination of I guess everybody chipping in? Once again, use case 2, using and fine tuning and predictive AI. We were talking about putting guardrails around it. I think that's part of the fine tuning, but let's see what's going on. The audits organization use predictive AI systems to analyze historical data to inform decision making. You see right there examples for business and service augmentation. The purpose, predictive AI use statistical analysis, machine learning to analyze historical data, predict future outcomes, trends, or behaviors. Example may include recommendation services, classification services, business workflow efficiency improvements through automated decisions, uh, resume review for hiring, credit underwriting history. So a lot of that's being currently used today, right? When you go in and get credit or loan, they have AI and machine learning trying to figure out if your demographics is good to loan money to, right? We got to be careful with how we word that, right? But that's part of shout out to cannabis. The biases we got to make sure that's covered. Once again, let's drill down a little more on the use case. These use cases will address cybersecurity risks in 3 stages: predictive AI lifecycle, model training, model development, and model maintenance. Each scenario will address different business workflow examples, focused on unique cybersecurity risk of using AI systems. On-prem or third-party hosted AI, using proprietary data or publicly available data. Automation of business workflow with predictive AI using a third-party hosted model with proprietary input data. B, automation of business workflow with predictive AI using third-party hosted model. I think it was much more risky with public-facing input data, identifying bad actors and update models with refined data for improvement. C, automation of business workflow, once again, predictive using on-premise models with proprietary data only. Access with credit worthiness of loan applications. Update the model with refined data for improvement after successful or unsuccessful loan allocation. Like I used to work for a very large company that talked about giving loans out and managing that. And they were using products to kind of figure out who would best fit that loan, who would best be having a guarantee more of a payback, right? The percentage of the prediction of you that will pay back that loan. So that was super interesting. Automation of business workflow with predictive AI using an on-prem model with public-facing input data. Used for hiring purposes, identifying resumes of candidates to interview and hire based on organizational defined criteria. Updated with refined data for improvement as successful or unsuccessful interview hires, right? So once again, using AI to figure out who to hire, who to add to your organization. And once again, Cannabis talked about the biases of that and how do we control that, right? And we just talking about case studies of what that will look like. And 2, from a GRC perspective, how do we validate that that's appropriate for the organization? Social engineering is now used engineering camps. Social engineering is now used in AI and machine learning, using graphical neural networks to hack humans. No, definitely. Definitely. In undergrad, I did a little neural networks. They were using Prolog back then, but that's 20 years ago. But yeah, we're talking about neural networks. And once again, trying to hack humans and kind of figure out what that decision making was. Shout out to my LinkedIn user. I need to go out there and check on my LinkedIn people over there. So let's keep rolling. Once again, we're just going to touch on a few of these use cases. I think it was 5. Once again, it was a short documentation with, there you see it. This 800-53 control overlays for securing an AI system, and it was a concept paper. All right, we might go ahead and send some feedback to this paper as I dig down into it. A lot of times I don't do that very often. The using AI agent systems. This is a single agent organization interested in using an AI agent system to automate business tasks and workflow. I know this is definitely the future, and I definitely need to get into programming AI agents. Shout out to AWS. They kind of ease you into there, kind of get your feet wet. AI agent systems have the capability for anonymous decision making, taking action to operate with limited human supervision to achieve complex goals. Characteristics of an AI agent system include the ability to understand context, reason, plan, adapt, and execute tasks. Right. So I think you're definitely moving kind of beyond machine learning, kind of getting some once again artificial intelligence and making some decisions on them. This use case will cover examples of AI systems, enterprise copilot connected to users' personal enterprise environments, including emails, files, calendars, internal enterprise systems, CRM. In addition, enterprise copilot can assist users with common tasks, such as creating calendar events, streamlining workflows, providing contextual insight, use the MCP to access data sources. An example of that will be architecture is available in the OWASP Agent AI Threat and Mitigation. We'll talk about that too. That's one of the best websites for cybersecurity, the OWASP, especially for Purple Team data programming. So a lot of those will be programming attacks. Once again, the OWASP Agent AI Threats and Mitigation. Coding assistant, understanding enterprise code base, automate developers of software through natural language command, use MCP to access data sources. The scenario include connecting to a source code repository to enable editing of files, interacting with the code repository to create and commit pulls requests for PRs, resolve merge conflicts and similar actions, developing, executing, and fixing unit and integration tests, browsing proprietary web services, assisting in the deployment of software. A lot of times when you see AI is going to take a lot of entry-level work assignments or jobs, once again, I think AI is going to assist other developers, which you will need less developers. Everything from A to B to C to D is a lot of times and I did this when I started, what junior programmers would do, right? Pulling repository. We used to call it scaffolding. When you connect to database, it should all look the same, right? When you go from your web to your middle to your database, all of that scaffolding code, you can pull from that. And I think AI can get you set up before you start adding your value for business logic, business domain. Part of that be the AI agent, and part of that will be if you are an insurance expert, IRS expert, the different domain experts, that's when you're start adding your value. But B, A through E, a lot of times is what junior developers will start off as, cutting their teeth and getting started in there. So I always think that's kind of interesting in there. See what my man Tasha, can they help him? Yeah, I think it can. I've been doing a lot of chat GPT. I call it pair programming, PAIR, where we set up AWS infrastructure, do some data engineering, doing pipelines flowing into AI. So I've been stepping through that with ChatGPT. How do you set up a private endpoint? How do you set up a private interface? How do you set up KMS keys in AWS, right? To make sure it's encrypted before you unlock it and encrypted before you send it to there's the SageMaker, right? That's their AI models, their AI tools. But once again, you gotta get the data set up to send to the tool so it can start learning. You make sure that data is clean, no repetitive data, no duplicates. And two, who's responsible for seeing what and who should not. Once again, least privileges of that. Facts, facts. Let's keep going. Oh, there we go. Let's go to 4. Using the AI system, this is the multi-agent. This is you currently the least mature in the terms of adoption, but expected to evolve and be redefined, understand and deepen and implement challenges. Organization interested in using AI agent systems to automate complex tasks and workflow with multiple interaction work streams. Multi-agents AI systems have capabilities for autonomous decision making and have multiple agents working in concert, taking action to operate cooperatively with limited human services to achieve complex goals. Multi-agent works in concert to extract data, take action, leveraging standardized protocols such as the MCP, A2A, agent-to-agent communication, for example, based on a reference. And we're going to dig into that to a future video. The OWASP Multi-Agentic System Threat Model Guideline, Robotic Process Automation Expense Risk Reimbursement Agent, multiple agents responsible for extracting information from expense claims, submitting receipts, form validation against company policies, routing and approved claims for payment to automate the employment reimbursement workflow in the enterprise. So I always think that would be one agent with one continuous flow, but they said it's going to be multiple agents. Like I submit my expense report will be an agent. Another agent would say, okay, his limit should be $1,000. If it's above $1,000, I need to send to approval to get my limited, my limit upgraded, right? So instead of one continuous agent, people believe you have maybe 10 or 20 agents doing different segments of that, and a lot of times doing that in parallel. So once again, from a red team attack, hacker attack, what would that look like, and what could you do to kind of trick it, right? And two, from a governance perspective, what does that look like for a multi-agent? And I think it was that 219A talks about secure coding, and I think part of that secure coding will be multi-agent. So once again, we'll definitely dig into that in the future. Security controls, this is us, and that's what we were just talking about. NIST developed an SSDF community profile, secure software development practices for generative AI. We definitely gonna do a video on that. Dual use for down foundation models. Identify critical for security model artifacts. Good practices for securing them. The NIST CIS published managed misuse risk for dual use foundation. Once again, it's in draft, the AI 800-1. Resources developed for AI. Mapping from the security controls in 800-53, my favorite one, to these artifacts and practices in 218 and in the draft 801. Resource pinning can benefit the community for AI developers and allow effective risk management built upon the topic. So once again, they're talking about the security controls. There's 20 security families, and there's sub-families and extended. So how do you map that, once again, to your AI development and your AI governance? And once again, I think they're still working on it. That's why this is open to, this is draft, and they just open for people responding and asking for different things in there, or how would you do it? Once again, we're going to look at some of the AWS features for doing that for these security controls. And two is we can comment on the draft in AI 800-1. 800-1. That's weird that number's a -1. But once again, that's the use case in one. Once again, the secure software development. And a lot of times people, I always call that purposing. A lot of GRC really doesn't talk about infrastructure and programming, especially talking about multi-agents. Let's see what my man Cannabis saying. He's the expert in that. Multi-agent is using correlation. This is experimenting with like, okay. So that's one thing I like. I said, I'm trying to become more familiar with. Once again, I usually look at a single workflow or inside AWS, right? You could do their Apache workflow. They have a workflow inside of Glue for data engineering, right? Then they have their bigger workflow if you're calling AWS services that are different in data engineering. So those kind of control the workflow of your process. It sounds like when you call agents, they're just working, right? They're in parallel. One might finish different than the other. So once again, I guess if you need one complete before the other one, what would that look like? Could you have set up kind of like a state flow where this needs to be finished before that, or these two can go in parallel? I'm sure there's a way to control that. I'm just dipping my toe into the AI programming piece of that. But I usually stay in. I appreciate you. Great job. I appreciate you, Ghost MKC. So two is, once again, from the security control standpoint, that's more of a GRC. How will we manage that? Once again, MJ Cannabis, he's the developer of that. So how will we work with him to make sure we were understanding that right from a GRC perspective? Shout out to my man, David B. Cyberstore. Try something different. I think Chris talked me into it. Shout out to man, that's my high trust expert, my SOC 2, SOC 1 expert. You just got to see. So I definitely reach out to him. So, I'm a 53 guy. That's my hammer. So I try to hit everything with them. Once again, we're talking about NIST in the AI perspective. Once again, from a GRC perspective, what would that look like now and in the future? Once again, I'm just trying to get comfortable with that. I don't think I've this is for the talk on Thursday. We're going to talk about AI and how much power is using around the around the world. Right, it's going to double power in 2030. That's why Microsoft's talking about using 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant. But that's for Thursday conversation. We're gonna come back around. We're gonna talk about the once again we're talking about NIST 53 overlay. We're talking about now. We're gonna flow into the AWS. Their MlSecOps, which is basically machine learning operations with the security part. Where security is part of GRC, so that part at the bottom will be us. So supply chain vulnerability, we should do a risk assessment of our software coming in. That'd be SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, whatever SaaS or I could say is coming into the organization, right? So we need to be reviewing all the software in and out. Model provisions, we'll talk a little bit about that. That's something I haven't really delved into much. This is what we normally talk about: government risk and compliance. Trusted AI, what does that look like? And adversarial machine learning. We were talking a little bit about that in the upcoming NIST document. We definitely dig into there, right? What are the common hacks that you would use to attack AI and machine learning? I did a video on that, probably 6 months ago. So what are the most common? Part of that, we talk about poisoning your AI. Taking your items that shouldn't be seen, right? Just standard privilege escalation, right? Because once you get your dashboards, get your tools you're using, making sure, once again, least privileges, who can see what. Once again, I think a new thing is coming out is MlSecOps, machine learning operations, and the security part. A lot of times before you get to AI, machine learning gets your data together. Machine learning make sure your quality of your data is correct, what you're trying to learn. Then the next part of that is AI, right? And get those decisions. I usually lump those together, to be honest, from a GRC standpoint. It's data controlling and who can see what. And we're talking about some of the AWS tools to make sure you lock down that data. This is a high level machine learning and some of the things, the data prep, right? These are a lot of times the data engineers and what they look at: data aggregation, data wrangling, data balancing. Once again, data engineers clean, normalize, regulate. Shout out to my man, Engineering Cannabis. Unbiased or mitigate bias, which are detect biases. I think in AWS Sage Managers, it's called data wrangling. So from a GRC perspective, we can look at data wrangling and see. I think it's from 1 to 0 if it believes your data is biased, right? Meaning you need to add more to it or check it, right? Feature engineering, data labeling, transformation and coding, joining it with other stuff offline and in store, data artifacts, training and tuning your data pipeline. So this is part of what Engineering Cannabis, aka Engine Cannabis, do. PBO don't do that. Deploy and monitor. I might deploy it once he signs off on it, right? Then inferences, what are your users are getting from that data, and from their businesses, it could be money, businesses, new business opportunity, uh, biases and things we should cut out because it's not making money. Once again, the AWS at the bottom. People know that's kind of my favorite cloud. Once again, MlOps on AWS. Data and model, creating plan, verifying package, release confirmation, right? That's the part we looked at minus the SecOps. So machine learning operation, once again, how do you get it ready for Engineering Cannabis to do his thing, right? Run his models and make sure we get data, I guess, and make great decisions out of it. What are some of the ML Sec operations, the 5 pillars? Supply chain vulnerability. We were looking at this when we were looking at those 5 use cases: model provisions, governance, risk, and compliance, trusted AI, adversarial machine learning. Right. So machine learning, SecOps, where the security part at. These are the 5 pillars they kind of recommend we're focused on to make sure we're good. Let's see my main current. I know that's the scary part. I think a lot of people are missing that. And I tell people it's gonna get better and better. That's the scary part. That is the scary part. No, facts. I agree with him. No, I did. I was doing AI in college in 1990. We were doing Prolog. So you're right. AI. I've been doing AI since then. But it's hard to do AI on a VAX mainframe and a 8280 processor, right? You just didn't have enough power back then. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, the energy part about it. And I did a video on that. Once again, that's why Microsoft and all the big cloud vendors are talking about restart nuclear power plants. That's just weird for me because they talking about restart 3 Mile Island. I'm like, dude, that almost took the United States out. Yeah, what you mean you're gonna restart it, right? So for me, that's something we probably talk about around Thursday at lunch. The power, the issues. Shout out to my man. Elevate to the Unknown. He was talking about using AI as part of the HR, and could that be a problem? They were monitoring you to make sure you was using AI appropriately. So I was going to talk a little bit about that, kind of the societal part of that. But no, facts. Let's keep going. I don't think we got much longer. I'm gonna watch my favorite show, uh, Alien Earth, Earth Alien. Alien Earth on FX. I love that show. Gonna watch that. Of course, I got a recording at 8. We can pick it up, but yeah, definitely gonna watch Alien Earth. Love that show. So, what's the difference, right? ML ops compared to DevOps. So, in standard DevOps, which is development operations, you helping developers get ready. So, you got code versioning, artifact versioning, continuous integration, and continuous monitor. Machine learning operations add additional field. Data lineaging and governance, right? So when you pull data and you learn it from it, where did you get it? Was it from the outside? Was it internal? Was it from the HR? They need to track where you got that data lineage, right? To keep track of that. Experiment tracking. What are you doing? Once again, with the data lineage and experiment on it. Model lineage for governance. Model retraining strategies and model build and deployment workflows, right? So DevOps is new, MLOps, those are the additional tasks that that team is responsible for, right? A lot of people think DevOps are going to disappear in the near future, right? So I think MLOps is going to contain all of that. I think now with the pipelines are more mature, um, testing of that is more mature. In the old days, you would program stuff and throw it in in production, and people couldn't figure out. Now there's more cohesive strategy right there. Because when I worked at large company, I developed it on my laptop. Then I check it in. Then it would get tested into a QA environment that matched production, right? So you can kind of figure out what's the differences. Then you would get that feedback, and the DevOps team shouldn't be figuring that out. You as a developer should know what do you need to get something to run in production. Just because you get it to run on your laptop doesn't mean it's going to run in production, right? So I think over the last 10 years, we kind of figured that out from a DevOps perspective. So I think those last 5 things in machine learning ops is going to add to, once again, DevOps. I appreciate it. Something I'm dipping my toe in the AI. I appreciate it, security expert. Then part of the once again, we talk about the 853, but once again, now we're adding the AWS pieces of it, right? And Azure has a lot of these same pieces. And shout out to Google, shout out to Oracle. They're the big dogs in the industry. People know I have a few AWS certs, so that's kind of the hammer I'm still learning and growing with. So part of that common ML SecOps is data preparation, model build, model evaluation, model selection, deployment. Then at the bottom is us, right? MLSecOps, identity and access management, your IAM controls, what you need to do to authenticate and authorize people to run those different segments inside your ML ops at the top. And part of this is once again the AWS part. They believe data engineer would do the data preparation, data scientists would do the model building. At the bottom, the all those sections, the security engineer will be in there, security analyst, model approver, and us is the governance officer. You see, they believe the governance part is the monitoring. Model approver, which is not us, will be the model selection. We will be security, of course, will be the whole the whole path. Security engineer here, they believe is will help with the data preparation and model build. Why is that? I believe because that's where, and we'll look at coming up, encryption of your data. A lot of times you have a data lake. Who can see the data lake? Pieces of where you're getting it. If you're getting it from a relational data store, a data warehouse, where you're pulling data to prepare it for the model, right? That needs to be encrypted in RAS in transit, hopefully in memory even. So your data engineer needs to make sure that that's happening once again in the data preparation and model build. So these are some of the jobs. So we talked about governance and where hallucination at. Is that governance? Is that the DevOps engineer? Is that the ML ops engineer? Is that the data scientist? So those are some of the things we discussed in the past and probably in the future. So two is these are the tools from AWS, and we're going to go through them super quick that you would use in each one of those phases. Us as a GRC person needs to understand these at the high level and how we should secure them. Right? I didn't say we're going to develop them. I didn't say we were pushing them out, but we need to understand them if we're going to have governance over them. Right? So data preparation, you will have your AWS KMS as your key management store, AWS backup. If you have data or you pull in data, you want to back it up, even if it's in an S3 bucket, even if it's on a file system, even if it's a VM, if it goes down, you want to be able to retrieve it and get it back. That could be backing up the service itself, or you can call it from the source system and rebuild it, right? But you need to understand from a DR perspective, what that will look like. Virtual private cloud right there, VPC. That's usually your subnets, your routing tables, and once again, how that flows and talks to each other. Right, Macy, that's the service to look for PII or credit cards. So in your S3 bucket at the top, that's your object bucket. You could put JSON files in there. You could put flat files in there. You could put videos in there. All right. So if any of that could be read by text, Macy could say, "Hey, you look like you have PII leakage." So it would actually send you an email, or actually could block that information from going out, depending on how you configure it. AWS Network Firewall, once again, through your VPC and your security groups. How are you setting up micro-segmentation? We talked about zero trust. Right in your private links, instead of it going over the internet, you can say, set up a private link and it would go on AWS internal network. A lot of times when you're doing this 800-53 or CMC, you don't want that information to go over the internet. You can do private endpoints and that would keep it on the AWS network. You just got to pay for it, right? Model build, Amazon Inspector. It just goes out there looking for vulnerabilities out there, CVEs, and it'll email that to you. Once again, the VPC is the networking. AWS Direct Connect, if you have on-prem, you can connect it directly to your on-prem. So if you're on-prem and your provider's Verizon, Verizon usually have cabinets that has AWS cabinets in their customer cabinets. Then they can connect those, so it'll be direct connect. Your AWS tenant directly to your provider, directly to your ISDN, to your on-prem app. S3 bucket, once again, is your object-oriented bucket. You see it there. That's where you put flat files. So when you load it, they call it a lake. So you could put flat files, JSON files, XML files. Then once again, they call it curate. You can move all that into they call it a star schema, so you can push it to the AI engineers so they can use that data to learn, right? Then the model selection, once again, is once you have that curated data, I hate that term, meaning you got the flat files, you smoothed it out, you got into a model that the engineers could use, and they could select kind of what learning model they want to use. Then deployment, once again, IAM, access analyzer, VPC, verified permission, verified access, right? So deployment is access management. Once again, are they going to use single sign-on, username and password, short-term token key, right? So before you deploy it, how do you get it encrypted and decrypted so whoever's supposed to see it can see it? All right, then the monitoring part of that, CloudWatch, CloudTrail, that's their internal SIM, right? So you can look at log files. If a service ran, if a service has an error, you also can enhance that with a program so you can actually log it to go to CloudTrail. Once again, GuardDuty, Security Hub, Amazon Detective, and Security Lake, or just different services, once again, for monitoring. Detective and GuardDuty is different security portals. Once again, CVs. One of them is for vulnerabilities and known attack. So it's looking through your network, reading your CloudWatch and your CloudTrails. They call it TTP and MITRE. It looks at those type of attacks and say, hey, that looks familiar. We think you're being attacked by Russia. Right? Oh, facts. S3 has been overused for that. Everybody puts, I think an S3 bucket, they call it a data lake. If you put too much stuff in there and it's not correlated correct, they call it a data swamp. So I think you're starting to see a lot of data swamps because people are just putting everything in S3 backup. So here, let me drop the link. I don't have much left. So I just want to touch on that because we talk about AI. I wouldn't say a lot, but those things are coming up. And basically, once again, understanding what that will look like. Amazon SageMaker is their model software that they use to build those type of models. So that's why you see that at the top. Data poisoning, we talked about that. You want to make sure that the data is not being tampered with. Encrypt your data. We talked about that. You saw that over the KMS keys, Amazon Key Management Service, to centrally manage keys to encrypt and decrypt training data, and models with AWS managed keys and customer managed keys, CMK. We were talking about that with my man Dave. Immutable storage, S3 objects can help prevent S3 objects such as training data or models from being deleted or overwritten. Because when you throw objects in there, it has a version. So when you change it or save it, it just creates another version. So you can go back and get it. Amazon Backup simplifies data protection at scale. Data exfiltration to make sure people aren't stealing your data. Users can define strict AWS network firewalls and Amazon VPC policies to prevent the movement of data in and out your VPC network. Use AWS Private Link for private connectivity from AWS VPC to your SageMaker. Right, SageMaker is their AI tool. So you could be using another tool, right? You can be using a tool on Azure, or you can be using Azure on Google, but you can have your data in AWS. So once again, you can pull and play what software you want to use in that until as you get more mature, right? So the MlOps part of that, we were looking at it. This is another version of it. Data preparation, model build, model evaluation, model selection, deployment, and monitoring. Right, so that's it, right? Process code, training code, metadata, candidate models, test and validation data. It's a lot of stuff MJ Canister would be doing on his part, right? Interference code, code model and production, the monitoring of that production data. Right, and AWS has, once again, their services they want you to use. Azure has their services, and Google and Oracle. Everybody has their tools in their pipeline, how you want to do it. Once again, Amazon SageMaker for their ML set, streamline ML lifecycle, network and application protection. We've talked about that. VPC, private link, network firewall rules, WAF, disable internet connection, authentication and authorization, AWS IAM Identity Center, successor to the SSO, IAM and source IP restriction, meaning when we load data in our S3 bucket, we're only saying you can get data from these source IPs. Right? If we have third party outside of our network, we want to control what companies can put data into our bucket. Right? So that's where that source IP restriction comes in. Data protection, once again, we talked about the KMS keys. SageMaker also integrates with the AWS secret managers to create and rotate secrets. So instead of having your database, app server, web servers, credentials hard coded, you put them in a secrets manager, and they're not in your code. You just pull them out encrypted, and then secret manager would unencrypt it, log into the database. Right? It makes it a lot harder for the bad guys to get your username and password. Threat detection and incident response. We were talking about that. That was the guard duty, inspector, detective, security link, track tracing out of all API calls, events, data access, interaction down to the users and IP levels to ensure quick remediation. Then we know AWS has all the compliances, HIPAA, PCI, SOC 1, 2, and 3. My favorite is FedRAMP, which is actually NIST 800-53. So once again, those are some of the things from an AWS perspective. Once again, the services you will use to set up your AI ML pipeline. So that's really, I just wanted to touch on some of that. I think that's my favorite slide right there, kind of tell you what you need to do to end that. I hang out. Like I said, I just wanted to touch a little bit on that. We're always talking about the AI. And one of the new NIST documents came out was the NIST 800-53 control overlays for securing AI, which is a concept paper. We might, as a group, send them some things we want them to tighten up on. Let's see. Security expert. All the big tech companies are doubles. Corporate tax is profitable. Them 10-15% max. Hence the reason. Facts. They do be taxing the shit. Especially Google doubling them be taxing the shit out of Google and Meta. They be hitting them for like $100 million. It'd be crazy, man. They be straight But hey, they set the rules and Google and them like, hey, $100 million, we got that in our sock, man. We got that in our sock. We not even stressing over that. But once again, I like that in the ML set ops security integration. Once again, preparation, model build, model evaluation. Those are some we might do some labs on coming out. They have a couple, I guess, beginner things you can build. So what would that look like if we built them and we protected them using these services? I'm comfortable with the majority of those services. Um, I've used, but I never set up a direct connect or a site-to-site VPN. Shout out to my man. Oh my God, he had the network channel. I was going to set up. He actually had some Cisco hardware. I was going to set up site-to-site with him into my training tenant on AWS, so we could actually do a site-to-site. Right. No, facts. Yeah, but they be finding people that's not in there. Maybe I'm thinking of EU. But no, you right. A lot of companies, Dell, you right. Dell was big in there probably in the 2000s, like in '90s. Yeah, I remember when Dell was real big in there. Shout out to Michael Dell. So once again, I hang out any longer. Put any questions in the chat. If you want to come up, that's an option. Once again, we just want to touch on some with AI from a GRC perspective. Working on our new time slot. Trying to get comfortable with that. Once again, people know I'm an AWS guy, so once again, I like looking at the AWS features to that and what that will look like. So just checking those out a little bit. Again, I'm running out of I'm running out of energy. Got my walk on this morning. Long day on my grind. Well, appreciate everybody for joining me in my first time slot change. Let me know if y'all want me to discuss a certain topic. Usually I got a video on that topic. Everybody tease me. They're like, we know PBO probably got a video on that topic. I got about 800 videos I've done over the years. So usually I have something done on that. But yeah, I probably hit that secure software development framework for AI. I think it was a 218A. So that one looked interesting. Once again, I programmed for about 10 years. I should block my man from coming up. Shout out to
Man, man, you just said you wanted somebody to jump on stage and get you energized. That's what I'm here
Nah,
for.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. I appreciate you for coming up.
Yeah, no, I know you do a lot more research than I do. I went down a rabbit hole last Friday, man, at work. I was trying to help a client out with AWS security groups, and I said, I'm looking at it, and I couldn't find the white paper. I don't know. I don't remember what words I was searching for or whatever, but I was just not having any luck, man. And I was using AI, as a matter of fact, to try to help guide me somewhere. But whether it started hallucinating or it just didn't understand what I was asking for, the whole part is that we're looking for a default deny all, right? But
What's
I
in
didn't
there?
know that security groups basically are the opposite of that. I mean, they're implicit. Like if you don't tell it what network or whatever you want it to run on what port, it won't. There's no traffic. So I didn't know that at first,
Yeah,
and I was
yeah,
just So I was looking. It was right there in front of me the whole damn time, and I had no clue. I
yeah.
was I was so mad.
Because it's stateful. Yeah, but the next pretty much like yeah, you're right too. And it's stateful, meaning you don't need to send an out right when you go it remembers that trace route, so it's gonna let traffic out on that trace that it came into. But yeah, now and two is how you do it. You get microsegmentation when you do that too on your network. Mm.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I saw, and it's not that. Excuse me. I mean, obviously, you still need to have the SSH keys, but they had the ports open, 22 for everybody, 0.0.0.0
I
slash
don't like
zero.
that. I'd have
I
blocked
know.
that. I'd have gave him a finding.
But see, the funny thing was, right after that, though, they did all their they had the ones that they really wanted. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, just delete that one. Now that I know, I'm like, just delete that one. You know what I mean? Like, so I think somebody set it up, and then it's a good topic to go over that you gotta, even when you're doing your reviews, maybe sometimes you miss those easy low hanging fruit, not just for me as an
Mhm.
auditor, but
Mhm.
as a somebody from the company. You're like, oh, maybe we need that, or do we need that? Did Bob set that up? Who set that
No.
up? You know?
The cool thing though at DoD, which is a pain in the ass, every security group in your security group Sinaco, you got to have a ticket for who approved that. So that's
Yeah.
kind of which is a pain. So what that says is, so if you had all, you better have a good reason for all, right? Maybe I don't know why you would do all SSH because it's not a web server, but usually we said this is all because of this, and this is a ticket, and this is who approved it.
Well, they also had ICMP, which is used for pinging, right? And I was sitting there thinking,
Why
you
you
want
ping?
anybody else? I wanted to almost just like, you know what? I'm going to ping this server right now just for fun.
Yeah, yeah, you should have gave him. But a lot of times, like you said, and I was not as bad as that. You test a lot of that in production because you couldn't get it to work, but you never go back and take that shit out. That's the problem. Like you said, it's okay. We had a problem in production, so they probably said ping up. They were doing some. Then once they got it work, they never went back. And that's what GRC comes in perspective. Internally, we try to review that yearly to say, then I would see it before you come because we got to pay you big money. I would be like, hey, Dad, why we got that in there? And where's the ticket for this? Right? Because a lot of times when you test it, there's no ticket for it. I'm like, so where's the ticket at?
Well, that thing was probably set up right when they set it all up, and they just
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
whether we didn't ask for ticketing on this particular instance, I'll just leave it at that. But it's
Yeah.
like hey, it's just something I try to bring to the client. Say, hey, of
Mm-hmm.
course, yeah, somebody still needs to have your SSH key or whatever username,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But my point is that those things can be found, and if they can be found, it could be used against you. So that's all I was really trying to get at. But
No, you're
um
100% right. You're 100%
and
right.
and about the AWS, kind of like the question that so I'll let you get to that question, but I also wanted to ask you something about, because I'm
Yeah.
learning more about the buckets, and
Yeah.
we're trying to find good lord, it's such
I
a
know what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah.
immutable right
They're there. It's in
design
there.
there.
It's
But
there.
you have to set it up though, right? You
Yeah.
can't,
No,
that's not standard out the box. Okay,
you
I
got to
thought
set
so.
up versioning. You got to set up versioning and version. So instead of when you create a new one and you save it, it saves your other one, and you can never go out there and change it. Now you could go out there and delete it if you want, but you can't change it.
You can't write over it. Gotcha.
And a lot of times too, we put governance in there, so we won't let you delete the old ones because we want that. We want that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could go
What are
out
you
there and
hiding from us?
yeah. So we can say, okay, you can create a new one, but our governance says you can't go back and delete an old one. Right? So then
Yeah.
we have that chain, and then we can see. So you can set up immutable. So once again, it's versioning. Then you would set up your compliance or your governance objective, so they can't go back and delete it, which is called SCP, Service Control Policy.
So that's what I asked him. I said I need to see the configuration for it, because this is you just throwing some white paper at me, and I read the white paper, well, not the whole thing, because those white papers be 5,000 page long.
No, they can,
But I mean, Chris reads them, but I can't.
No, facts,
But
no,
long
facts.
short, I just said I need the configuration. Just show me the configuration. That's what a lot of compliance is show me the configuration and then show me an example so that I know that your configuration is working. And then you
Mm-hmm.
know. But anyways, I digress. I know you got to get rolling. No, I was also saying too, this is a great show that you're doing, and that Alien Earth is a great show.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
got it. I got to record. Now I'm loving the last couple episodes. Before I think it's four
Don't tell me the
episodes.
last. I'm one. Well, I'll be two behind after today because
No,
I
I ain't gonna
watch it. Yeah,
tell. It was good. That's all I'm gonna say. It's good. So
I like how they twisted the brother. That's all I'll say in there. That's
yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
all I'll say
yeah.
because I don't know nothing else. But it's like that's
No,
a
it's
cool
good.
little. Yeah, but anyways, man. Hey, I always appreciate you,
No, good.
PBO. You bringing the facts and trying to help people with stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them may or may not be interested in all the AWS and how and the AI, but I think it's awesome. And
I
but
think. I mean,
we're GRC nerds.
you do it in real life. AWS is used by a lot of clients and a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people. So it's number one right now. I think Azure's gonna pass it, but currently I think it's 38%, and I think Azure had 23, 24.
Oh,
So
and
they're
GCP are they falling off or what?
no, GCP, I think, is catching up. They really finally got their federal act together. Because when I
Okay.
looked at them, their federal act was not together. And two is, you can always ping me in Discord if you want to talk about something offline to ask me a question. You can always give me if you need me. I
All
always
right.
got your
Sure.
back. Like if you
We'll
have a
do.
security group question or something like that, most of that stuff I can answer in a couple minutes. So
Awesome.
and two, I don't know if you want to do it and pick one. That's why I went out there and got the associate architect. People ask me so I can answer those type of questions, right? So that's why I got some of those certs, because even though I'm not an architect, those are architectural questions. Security groups, routing groups, subnets, micro subnets, zero trust. You need to kind of understand that architectural knowledge to be able to answer it. Sometimes, get the proper services you need to review. And
Oh
some of
yeah, a lot
those.
of my clients are using EKS, of course, the
All facts.
EC2 servers,
All
all the
facts. Facts.
VPC. So yeah, everything that you've been spewing, man. I definitely I
Fact.
got to get on the ball and start learning. But I want to
Fact.
do the CISM first, and then I'm going to go
Fact.
and just tackle some AWS. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever take the wink wink cert from AWS, but get all the way up there, and I might talk the old bosses into it. Say, hey, look, I've already learned it. You might as well just let me get the cert.
The cool thing though is, because I'm like you, I'm behind. I started sliding on my CISP because I'm late, but CISP $700. AWS is like $75, man, $150. You pass one and they give you 50%. Those for me, those don't hurt my pocket. 750 that kind of hurt my pocket if I don't pass, right?
For sure.
So yeah, the AWS. But two, once again, if you need to ask me a question or ping me, I know you on top of it, but you can always reach out if you need something.
Hey, you know what? The smartest person in the world knows that they don't know everything. So
Oh, facts.
that's
Even I
right.
don't.
So
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I'm starting to get on my EKS and my ECS now, which is my Docker and Kubernetes. So that's coming up probably the next couple of months, because a lot of people are using containers, and my container knowledge is kind of weak, to be honest. So
yeah, I gotta get better at that as myself. So
yeah,
maybe we can start. We get to that point where we're training together, we're learning together.
that is. I'll probably start
But
doing some videos. We can talk about it
there
on.
you go.
I'll
There you
be
go.
doing some videos on the EKS, ECS, which is Dr. Shout out to Tam. She usually comes in there. She's on Women in Linux. She's definitely setting up
Cool.
I forgot. It's not Redshift, but she sets it up from the bare metal up from that.
Oh, okay.
I don't do that. So I usually hang out with Tam. Shout out to Tam and Women in Linux. I need to go over there and tie some money to their channel. But reach out to me if you need me for anything.
All right, will do. Hey, y'all have a good evening, and
All right.
let you go so you can watch your show. I got to go pick up my daughter, so I'll talk to you
All
later.
right. Shout out to Ty. Yeah, Ty, you don't have to write scripts. AWS says part of their backup. You can say I'm backing up. Let's say EC2. You're doing block storage inside of Windows or Linux. Inside of that block storage, you can say it's called a DLM, data lifecycle. You can say for this EC2 block storage for this particular one, the data life manager is me copying it, me making a copy of that Linux or Windows. Then part of that copy is making a copy and moving it to a different region in case this region hacks. So you don't really have to write scripts. AWS has most of that stuff built in, either from a database. If you're doing Postgres, MySQL, Oracle, most of those backups are built in because they know people do that all the time. So usually as their data life manager, you just kind of say how often you want to back it up, how many you want to keep, and do you want to copy them to another region or multiple regions if you think somebody's going to hack you and try to steal it. So a lot of that stuff is built in because once again, shout out to AWS. They know you need that stuff, and for infrastructure and maintaining stuff, they want to take that out of your sysadmins and do that for you and make it easier. They really just want you to work on your business domain and what you're developing for your business. A lot of that stuff I call scaffolding or basic management. AWS wants to take that off your plate. So once again, if you're doing database or S3 backup or block storage because you are doing it off of Linux or Windows box, a lot of that stuff is built in. I'll probably do a video on that now. You mentioned it, Todd. Once again, put your questions in the chat. PBO is going to go grab a little drink, stay up, watch the show, and get back to labbing every day. Shout out to Dewan, going lab every day. Just blabbing here. I was been labbing a little of that data preparation right there. Part of data engineering, just trying to get comfortable with and what that would look like. Once again, though, even the cloud infrastructure is so big, right? There's architects, developers, sys operations, DBA, data engineering. Now we added machine learning, artificial intelligence. It's just so big. But what I tell people is just kind of pick what you want to do and grow into it. Don't overthink it. Like I'm getting better at architect, even though I passed the test. It's kind of a little bit of beginner, but I wouldn't consider myself an architect, right? I understand architect, and shout out today from a GRC perspective and governance and reviewing it, right? What does the security group look like? What does NACO group look like? Which one is stateful? Which one is stateful? When you look at your rules, right? What order is it in? If you don't have this rule, or you have a rule that says access all 00, right? Where does that come from? Right, that's too broad. Right, if you're doing SSH, that shit comes from at least an IP address on the internet, at least a CIDR block from that particular company, right? So you don't want to open it up to the world. But once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me at our new time, 7 o'clock on Tuesday. We probably go Thursday at lunchtime. So PBO always late. Got to get it together. But once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining us. Once again, I just want to touch on it. Like Dave said, we've been kind of drilling down into artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I definitely want to just kind of touch on that piece, especially from the new 800-53 control overlays. I probably need to rename my video that, right? Shout out to M Cannabis for joining me. Shout out to my LinkedIn user. I forgot to check on it. Shout out to Ty. Shout out to Fool's Eyes. I'm messing his name up. Shout out for my man Ghost MKC. Shout out to Kiki and Jasmine for joining us. Shout out to security experts. Reach out to me if you need anything. I'm usually in Study GRC's Discord. So with Dave out there. Once again, I appreciate everybody for joining. PBO about to go make a quick run to the gas station, get a little more caffeine so we can get busy tonight. We're going to lab a little bit more, get a little better. Get a little better at this. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. I'm out. PBO, have a great hump day tomorrow. Is it hump day tomorrow? Yeah, this holiday that threw me off. Have a great hump day tomorrow.